Hello, it's your Jetta Gang Cars here, and I'm just having recycling an old canvas I did with demos, just with paintbrushes, and I'm just going to paint. You can just watch me paint, and I'm doing a simple landscape with just a palette knife and the brush. I'm using 4 different types of palette knives from small, medium to large. I also am going to be using my half blade. The rest of them are just standard. And again, I have my color wheel colors where I'm going just from my warm to my cool colors. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start mostly with this background, and I kind of want to put in the whites and the blues for the background, for the area for the sky. And that's kind of important. I kind of want to finish that and get a base for the painting. Again, I'm painting over an old painting. So I'm kind of just putting these whites down with my palette knife, and I'm just kind of covering these spaces on top. And I just came from outside. It was a beautiful day. And it's usually easier when you don't have to cover something on the canvas, but it's kind of cool to, you know, recycle an old canvas and use it for that reason. I'm kind of just putting down, I'm thinking that I kind of want the clouds to be here. Just covering them down. Usually I might add a little bit of gray to these clouds, but because there's this background of gray underneath and black washes, I can use that to my advantage. And that's what I'm doing here. And I'm not really using a lot of paint. Once you use the palette knife, you'll know how to turn the knife over and use the other side. You'll know how to move your wrists a little bit faster to get the feeling that you want of that knife, and you pretty much know the strokes that you want to put down. And these are pretty large strokes so far. Brighten it up. But they're going to change drastically. So I'm kind of just laying down these light areas, and I know where my clouds are going to be, and I'm pretty happy about that. And I kind of want to make this painting a really bright painting. Like if you're standing outside and you have a lot of light. And it's going to be a landscape of water, I've decided. So I'm going to have to bring in some water. So I have my white base. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some blues. I'm going to add a little bit of white, tea white, to the blues. And when I'm adding these blues, you know, I'm thinking I want them to be really bright, so I'm going to use a tiny bit of ultramarine in them, but I'm going to mix a little bit of cobalt in there. So I have this blue, it's a little bit brighter, and what I'm going to do is I'm kind of just putting it on the canvas here next to these white areas that I just had for my clouds. I'm just kind of building a base. I kind of want it where the sky is, it's a bright day, there might be a little bit of sun, I might come back with some yellows, and again I don't have that much blue. On my palette I have about the size of maybe a quarter of paint, but again, you'll get the idea of knowing how to spread that paint and apply that paint. You don't have to use a lot of it once you get used to how you would pick up the color with the knife. You actually use, a lot of people think, oh, I have to use a lot of paint with the palette knife, but that's not really true. Once you learn how to make the strokes, you really learn how to use all of the paint to the best of your ability there, and spread it as much as you need it. Okay, and I really do like using every little bit of stroke of the paint. So now I kind of have this area where I have this sky, and I'm going to add a little bit more blue, Pick up some white, change it a little bit, make it a little bit darker maybe in some areas, so I have some contrast in the sky. Maybe the sky's not always one color. If you look at the sky, you'll see some areas usually are darker, some areas are lighter. Makes your painting a little bit more depth, gives a little bit more interesting color, and you can always go back. You know, these colors are, none of them are final. They're just kind of like what you're putting on the canvas at that moment, what you're blending, and you can always go back and change them. Okay, so this is now going to be the sky for the way that I have it. Of course, it might change. I'm going to put in more clouds here, but at this point, I pretty much have it covered the way that I want it to be covered. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work this water area at the bottom. I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue and crimson. I want to really have a darker area here. Kind of going to spread this along the side. And again, you can use a larger knife. You know, I'm just laying down the basis of this color. And I find when students paint plein air, so when they go actually on location and paint, they have a better idea of what colors they really want to replicate, because they're so used to seeing the colors. You know, you really train your eye to see a lot of color, and it's very helpful, especially when you're trying to get that color. I always carry with me my little sketch pad, and I'm always making new colors. I'm always recording new colors. I mean, I have my own line of paints, but I'm also always making new colors. It's kind of exciting. I encourage everyone to do that. You know, see how many colors you can make in your day. Maybe you're going to make like 3 or 4 new colors this week. And it becomes exciting. You give yourself a challenge. Okay? So now I have this area where I have my water building up. Okay? So I'm going to stop the video now here, and then I'll start another video. I'm going to try to cover this area with some greens.